Hello friends, welcome to Knowledge House. Right now we'll be looking into today's The Hindu newspaper that is of date 21st of August 2018. So as usual, we'll be looking into only certain articles that are important from a UPSC and various other competitive exams perspective. So I welcome you all to this video. Let's start. The first article is regarding the Nirav Modi, the whole fiasco, and the article is titled "The UK confirms Nirav's presence." So the United Kingdom has confirmed to the Indian agencies that Nirav Modi, who is involved in the 13,578 crore Punjab National Bank fraud case, is staying there. The CBI investigation has sought CBI has sought his detention and initiation of extradition proceedings. The agency has also sent the extradition request to the Union Home Ministry to be forwarded to the UK authorities through External Home Ministry. So, definitely, for your proper understanding, the extradition request has to be submitted to the Home Ministry and it will be transferred to the External Affairs Ministry. So the later part of this article says that the Enforcement Directorate earlier had moved an extradition request in connection with its money laundering cases to be sent to the United Kingdom and the UAE as Nirav Modi's exact whereabouts were not established then. So the another man who is related with the same fiasco is Mr. Mehul Choksi, Mehul Choksi, and who has been we read the news that he has applied for the citizenship in Antigua and Barbuda, that is an Antigua, and following the clearance certificate from Indian authorities. So, about that news, Mr. Choksi, who has been earlier in the US, has taken refuge in Antigua. He had applied for the Antiguan citizenship in May last year and got it about 6 months later. So, that's all important about this particular news. Moving on to the next article, it is regarding Modi's letter for a positive engagement with Pakistan. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi had called for a constructive engagement with Pakistan. Sources confirmed on Monday. In a letter to the newly sworn-in Pakistani counterpart Imran Khan, Mr. Modi called for building good neighborly ties for security and prosperity in the South Asian region. Mr. Modi calls for engagement. His call for engagement comes in the backdrop that Delhi will hold talks only if Pakistan acts against terror suspects and outfits. So again, there has been a comment from the newly sworn in Pakistani foreign minister that Mahmoud Shah Qureshi on Monday extended the hand of friendship to India soon after taking oath by offering uninterrupted dialogue to resolve all outstanding issues. Anyway, when the new government took charge in Pakistan, there were some comments from the experts. I should say they are experts because all such articles were written by various former high commissioners and all that. First is, the new government is a puppet of the military government. So this is something that is something that contradicts the news is something that contradicts that particular stand. And again, an important part from our side is that the current central government has only 1 year remaining, or less than 1 year remaining. So there won't be much talks regarding the Pakistan and Kashmir issue. Anyway, both these statements has been contradicted. That's what is evident from this particular news. So that's all important about this particular article. Let's see, or let's wait for how things are going to evolve regarding India-Pakistan relationship. So that's all important. We are moving on to the next one. It is regarding the rupees recovery. So Indian benchmark equity indices rose to new heights on Monday as investor sentiments were lifted on account of a positive trend across the most leading Asian markets and a recovery of rupee against the dollar. So right now, the rupee has been valued at somewhere around 69 point something, which is a not so high kind of recovery. And rest of the news is regarding the various kinds of companies, how much they have gained and all that, which is not important for us. So that's all about this particular article. We are moving on to the next one. It is regarding the Kashmir. So just now we read a news regarding the new development or in a new dimension when it comes to India-Pakistan relationship, especially after the new government took charge in Pakistan. So right now, Kashmir backs India Pak's dialogue. So major political parties and the Hurriyat in Jammu and Kashmir on Monday expressed support for a Kashmir-centric dialogue between India and Pakistan, welcoming the intent for a constructive engagement, uninterrupted dialogue by the latter. Anyway, rest of the part is regarding the political some comments made by these Hurriyat leaders and all that, which is not important for us. So let's move on to the next one. It is regarding BIMSTEC. It stands for Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. So BIMSTEC stands for BIMSTEC envoys bat for the FTA. So Modi will attend a summit of leaders of the group in Kathmandu on August 30 and 31st. So BIMSTEC suffers from the lack of visibility in the region, says the diplomatic agents of 7 member countries who formed the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, who also called for a speedy conclusion of a free trade agreement within the group comprising Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and Thailand. So that's about the first part of this article. It coming on to the, it is really disappointing that we are yet to finalize and conclude the FTA, which has been negotiated or which was under negotiation since 2004. We need to expedite the BIMSTEC. That is, expedite, the word means to make faster. Expedite the BIMSTEC to boost our intra-regional trade from its current percentage of 7% to 21%. That's what Bangladesh High Commissioner has said. Anyway, let's not notice who says what, but let's look into what they say. So, and again, coming to even for the framework 2000, even for a framework in 2004, it took 7 years. It is easy to negotiate an FTA between the countries. India and Sri Lanka have it, but when the 7 countries are involved, maybe it's not easy. That's another dimension. And terrorism is the most significant threat in the Bay of Bengal region as well as the Southeast Asia. And we call for more cooperation amongst the member state on this issue. That's what Ambassador from Myanmar expressed. So that's all important about this particular article. We are moving on to the next one. It is regarding the NDRF, that is National Disaster Response Force, and NDRF aid only for severe calamities. So this is a backgrounder kind of thing, so which used to be very useful, especially in understanding certain concepts. So the union government has declared that the Kerala floods a calamity of severe nature. Here is a look at what this means and whether the state can expect additional help from the center, and how the various disaster relief funds are employed in the country and how they are funded. So what are the classifications of disaster and how does the effect functioning, and the whole of the important except these figures, whole of this article except these figures is really important. So especially our disaster management is a special topic in our UPSC syllabus also. So let's look into what are the classifications of disaster according to the National Disaster Management Policy. Remember, it is a policy, not Disaster Management Act. So according to this policy, the state governments have to provide disaster relief from their respective state disaster response funds, and only for a calamity of severe nature will additional assistance be provided from the National Disaster Response Fund. So I made a mistake here. It is not, the article is not talking about the force, it is about the fund. So this is, however, no provision. There is no provision in the law or the rules for the government to designate a particular disaster as a national calamity. So how are the NDRF and the SDRF, that is state part of this disaster response fund, how they are funded? So NDRF is funded through a calamity contingency duty. Remember, calamity contingency duty, CCD. Calamity contingency duty, which are levied on pan masala, chewing tobacco and cigarettes, and with the budgetary provisions as when needed. So there are two sources. One is this calamity contingency duty, and the other one is budget allocations. So a provision exists to encourage any person or institution to make a contribution to the NDRF. However, this source of funding has not been tapped so far according to the government. So the 14th Finance Commission recommended changes to the structure once the cess was discontinued or subsumed within the GST. However, the government instead decided to continue with the national calamity contingency duty even in the GST regime. I will repeat the statement once again. In the 14th Finance Commission, that the 14th Finance Commission recommended changes to that particular structure, and once the cess was discontinued or subsumed within the GST. However, the government instead decided to continue with the national calamity contingency duty even in the GST regime. The SDRF corpus is contributed by the union government and the respective state governments in the ratio 75 is to 25 for general category states and the 90 is to 24 special category states. So the allocation for SDRF for each state is done by the Finance Commission and the center contributes its specified share in each financial year. The central share of the SDRF is released in two equal installments in June and in December. So this was the really important part in this particular article. So what has been the trend in the budgetary allocations of in NDRF and SDRF? The union government has maintained a steady flow of funds to the NDRF each year, ranging from 5,600 and anyway that it's just a figure. So 5.5 that is 5,500 crores in 2015 to 2,500 crores. So there has been a steady increase. So rest is regarding how this is allocated. Anyway, according to the priority or according to the vulnerability or the various other calamities that occurred in various states of the country, this used to differ. So let's not look into it. So that's all important about this particular article. Moving on to the next one. Taliban rejects Ghani's truce offer. So Taliban rejected on Monday an Afghan government's offer of a ceasefire and it would persist with their attacks. Two militant commanders said, while the insurgents ambushed three buses and kidnapped nearly 200 passengers who were traveling for a holiday. So the rejection of Mr. Ghani's ceasefire came as the government officials were trying to secure the release of at least 170 civilians and 20 members of the security forces who were taken hostage by the Taliban. So anyway, let's the concept to be noticed here is regarding the Taliban and its government. That is its government during the early 2000s and the rejection right now, the current equation between the government and Taliban, that all these things has to be definitely noted. And if further research is required, please go through it. And definitely, for yes, of course, further research is required. So I recommend you to go through it. And Russia invites, that is another dimension of this. Russia invites Taliban to the September talks. So Russia declared that we are preparing it for September 4. That's what a representative of the Russian president on Afghanistan said in a media address. Asked whether the Taliban will be invited to meeting in Moscow, he said, in the framework process of launching a process of national reconciliation in Pakistan. He said Moscow views positively to the truce offer. So definitely the article gains importance because we have our own strategic interest in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and definitely China has a China used to China, Russia, and Pakistan used to play a role in the equation between government and Taliban. So definitely we have a lot of things. We have a lot of stake here. So that's all important about this particular article. Anyway, let's see how things are going to evolve, especially regarding the truce and the Russia arranged talks. Who all will be invited? Let's see. So that's all important about this. And moving on to other international news. So the US rejects Turkey's offer of pastors conditional release. So this is just for a news part that I have included this particular article here. So this is only to say that the tussle between or the spat between US and Turkey is going nowhere near nowhere near something that is really positive. So that's all about this particular article. Moving on to the next one. That is Greece emerges out of the eurozone bailout. That's what some years before, like Greece was really in a financial crisis, and even IMF and this European Central Bank, there was a lot of tussle going on between whether to continue in the euro, whether Greece should continue in the eurozone or should leave out, and there was a lot of austerity measures that were put in. So right now, Greece has emerged out of this. So Greece emerged from the biggest bailout in the economic history on Monday after 9 years of mandated austerity, with the European institutions hailing the exit as a success, but cautioned Greeks finding a little reason to celebrate. Athens will rely on bond markets to refinance its debt, officially leaving behind a crisis that shrank its economy by a quarter and pushed many into poverty. So, since early 2010, Greece has relied on more than 260 billion euros lent by its Eurozone partners and the IMF. Today, we can safely conclude that the ESM program That is anyway. It's a Greece government program. Let's not go deep into it. ESM program with no. So today we can safely conclude the ESM program. That is external something measure. It is called. So ESM program with no more follow-up rescue programs. As for the first time since early 2010, Greece can stand on its own feet. That's what the Board of Governors has said. Anyway, it's a feather for Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras. So that's all important about that particular article. Moving on to the next one, it is related to RBI. So credit registry, RBI Act may need a tweak. That's what the RBI Deputy Governor Viran Acharya has said. So RBI Act of 1934 may need to be amended to facilitate the setting up of the public credit registry. Please look into it. Public credit registry. So, highlighting some legal issues around setting it up, Dr. Acharya said while PCR is initially being set up within the existing RBI infrastructure, the fact that RBI as a statutory corporation can only engage in those activities that are permitted by the RBI Act or other relevant legislation creates complications. Since no financial activity is contemplated for the proposed PCR, it might be difficult to label PCR as a financial institution. This takes out the purview of a promotion under the Reserve Bank of India Act to 1934. That's what he said. So the essence is, since PCR involves no financial activity, it is it it the same thing can be placed under there is nothing legally wrong in installing a PCR. So another option would be to promote an organization for a matter incidental to the functioning of the RBI as a part of the RBI Regulation Act of 1949. Anyway, let's see how the whole thing is going to evolve. This is just a news part. So please so that's all important about this article. There is nothing so much deep into it. So government and judiciary too responsible for the NPA. That's what new SBI chief has said. His name is Ranjish Kumar. So SBI chief has held everyone, including the government and the judiciary, responsible in their own way for the sharp rise in the NPA in the recent years. The problem of stressed assets. Many people ask me who is responsible for that. The question with which the country is grappling. That's what the SBI chief has asked. SBI chief was asked. I would say everybody is responsible. That's what was his reply. A major factor for the surge in NPA, according to Mr. Kumar, has been the consortium lending, which often led to inordinate delay in loan appraisal. Multiple banking, the successor to the consortium banking, too, had not helped speed up the decision making, but had only led to more NPAs. That's what he has opined. So China tariffs to raise cost from cradle to grave in the US. The please note the language here. It just means everything, that is from cradle to grave. So a broad cross section of the US business has a message for the Trump administration. New tariffs on $200 billion worth Chinese imports will force Americans to pay more for their items they used throughout their daily lives, from cradle to coffins. So rest of the article is regarding the comments by various leaders in the US administration, which doesn't look like so much important because I went through it. So right now what we noted is that some days before we noticed in another article that even though the US has imposed a lot of tariff on the Chinese goods that were imported that were imported by the US, but the devaluation of yuan has helped China to counter this measure. So that's important about this particular scenario. That's all important about today's newspaper. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like the video, please hit the like button and do share it with your friends. You can follow us on Telegram, and you can also visit our blog, that is www.knowledgehouse.co, and please do subscribe our channel so that you won't miss any updates from us. We will be coming up with more interesting and compelling videos. So you can support us. Definitely you can support us. You can send whatever you can to this Paytm number. It is not mandatory, but if you wish to support us, please do support us by sending whatever you can to this particular Paytm number. And another way you can support us is by sharing this particular video with your friends and by subscribing our channel. So that's all about this day, friends. Thank you very much once again for watching this video. Have a nice day.